Well, some First Nations leaders say they are cautiously optimistic after yesterday's summit with Prime Minister Mark Carney, but there were plenty of concerns raised over Ottawa's new law to fast-track major national projects.
I'm glad that the Prime Minister and Cabinet Minister stayed all day. I think the way the legislation is crafted, there's, as we heard today from many chiefs, there's still a lot of trust issues.
The Prime Minister opened the summit saying he stands by the legislation, but is also ready to listen. Many chiefs are upset over Bill C-5, which gives Cabinet power to speed up projects like pipelines. The chiefs say their rights weren't respected when Ottawa passed the bill last month. Views on what Carney had to say are varied, but most agree his actions are what matter most. And CTV's Jeremie Charron joins me now to talk more about this. Jeremie, what are some of the major takeaways from this?
Yeah, look, Roger, I think as you just heard, this was the first step of, strengthening a relationship between the government and Indigenous communities, specifically in this meeting with First Nations leaders that gathered from across the country. There was a lot of skepticism, a lot of, some negativity going into this meeting. Some had low expectations. But as you just touched on, there is now a sense of some careful optimism, if you will, among some of these leaders who feel as though at least the tone that they're hearing in which the government is speaking to them has shifted a little bit. The Prime Minister opened his speech talking about how he wants to write together a new chapter in the relationship between the government and First Nations. And what we heard from some of the leaders, some of the chiefs that were there yesterday, is that at some point in the meeting, the official agenda was somewhat abandoned to allow for more First Nations chiefs and leaders in the room to be able to have their voices heard and speak up. And, in speaking with a lot of those chiefs and a lot of the people that were there yesterday, there was a sense of collaboration and willingness to collaborate from the Prime Minister, something that they welcomed. Many acknowledged that there are still many challenges moving forward and that they still have concerns about this bill, as you just heard from one of the chiefs moments ago. But they believe yesterday was perhaps a good starting point and a good day for First Nations leaders from across the country to get to know the new Prime Minister. Many of them have never met him, had never spent time with him. And so this was a starting point for them, but it needs to be a starting point. That's the key that we heard from a lot of these leaders, is that they want to see moving forward that they will continue to be heard throughout this process, and that in the selection process, in the in all of the steps along the way, as the federal government starts to use its powers through this new legislation to fast track some projects, that while doing so, Indigenous communities from across the country, and in particular with this meeting, First Nations, will be able to have their say, will be able to have their input, will be able to be involved in some of these development projects if possible. That is a key for them. They need to be able to benefit, and their communities need to be able to benefit from some of these projects as well, that will oftentimes be coming through their land. So what I'm hearing from a lot of Indigenous leaders, from chiefs that were there yesterday, is that there is potential here for this to be a solid starting point, but there is still some skepticism moving forward, and many still have some concerns about the powers that this bill allows the government to have and how it will be used. So time will tell, but they're looking for deliverables too, Roger, and that will be the biggest thing moving forward. Okay. Prime Minister committed to more future Indigenous engagement, but the chiefs made it clear they'll be looking for concrete commitments moving forward, that just talking about these things is not going to be enough. So that's what we'll be looking for as this process kind of moves along. The Prime Minister will be meeting with Métis and other leaders throughout the summer as well. We'll continue to watch this closely and see how this develops, and whether or not Prime Minister Mark Carney and his government are able to really establish that trust with Indigenous communities to be able to move forward here.
Okay, Jeremie, thank you as always.
Anytime.